Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Friday, the 6th of March. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined this morning by Jonny McFarlane. How goes it, Jonny?
Yeah, going well. How are you?
All good, yeah. Can't complain. Looking forward to this game on Sunday and coming up for it, which I've not been to Ibrox since two forgettable draws against Braga and Falkirk. So I'm hoping for a better outcome on this occasion. Let's hope it's a better outcome than last Sunday, that's for sure. Danny Rohl, incidentally, folks, has conducted his pre-match press conference. We'll bring you some of the headlines from that shortly. Before we do, a quick word for our podcast sponsors, Willows Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust and proud partners of the Rangers Review. If you need a new fence, folks, these are the guys to call. They've got over 20 years of experience in the fencing trade. No job is too big or too small. They offer free consultations and 10% off with the code Rangers Review over on their website, willows-fencing.com. The all-important details are in the description below this video. Right, one of the big takeaways from the press conference, Jonny, I think, is Daniel speaking about the squad ahead of the game, and he said we have a full squad in training at the moment. So I'd imagine Joshua, it looks like, is asked Danny Rohl about Connor Barron when he's expected to return, and he did say it's a full house in training. So that can only be seen as a positive sign, because for me, he has been missed.
Yeah, look, he's a big factor in the squad. He gives you that level of dig and determination and graft and nous about Scottish football that I think is important over the course of a season. His form was excellent before the injury, which is why you saw so many people lamenting the fact he was going to be out. And I think Rangers have felt his loss, absolutely. And having him back for the run-in is going to be another option in midfield. I think important for games where things are tight. You need to win second balls. So I think very, very good news. Will he play at the weekend? I'd be surprised, Eric. Been out for quite a long time. You've got to pitch him right back in. Seems to me be more likely that he would be a substitute in appearance in a lesser game, first of all, and slowly edge back into the action rather than flung straight in. So I can't see him being part of the team to face Celtic, but in terms of the longer term, in terms of the league, because obviously this is a cup game at the weekend, I think Connor Barron's return is a big positive for the squad.
Yeah, I agree. I could have been doing with him last Sunday, just for someone to maybe calm things down in the middle of the park. Midfield was pretty much non-existent in the second half last weekend, and it's going to have to be a lot better this coming Sunday, that's for sure. Other pieces of information coming from said press conference. Daniel says, I want to be successful. I want to win. I want the club to be successful and bring the club forward. Pressure in football is normal, especially within this club. And I've such a great honour to be the manager, and I want to win on Sunday. He says we've got a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, but also a lot of trusts. After this game, we are fully focused on the league until the international break, and we want to get all 6 points. He says, as a Rangers manager, we have to win trophies. We have a great opportunity on Sunday to step closer to one. Now, that full press conference will be available on our YouTube channel shortly, folks. It's currently been uploaded. Those of you that like watching the player press conference, remember that is embargoed. 12 noon tomorrow, you will be able to watch that. Yeah, interesting stuff from Danny Rohl on that front. It's fair to say, it has to, for me, I think, it's huge. It's a massive game for Rangers tomorrow. Big talking point yesterday on the show, Jonny, was whether you would stick with the same 11 that started last Sunday or whether you would make alterations to it. Chris says he would stick with the same 11. I'm not so sure. I would be making one or two changes to that starting team. If you're Danny Rohl, how are you shaping up tomorrow? Well, Sunday even.
I think it's a really, really difficult one because you saw the way Rangers started that game. They were like an express train, Derek. They were irresistible. That was the best I've seen Rangers play for a long time. It felt like a Rangers performance. It was brimming with Rangers DNA, aggression, power, dominance. It was, but then let's be honest, they completely ran out of steam. And Martin O'Neill made a couple of changes that were extremely decisive in terms of how the game panned out. Rio Hatate coming in, given them an ability to play through the press. And my concern is if you go for the same team that played Celtic in that first half and did so well, yes, you can point to that first half, but you can also point to the second. And what do you think Celtic are going to play like? You think they're going to set up like they were in that first half with
no chance.
Oxlade-Chamberlain in the middle and the hopeless guy they had up front, the new signing? I don't think so. So I think Danny Rohl has to think almost like a couple of steps ahead. How do you beat the Celtic that ended that game, that Rangers struggled so badly against? And I think that's how you have to approach it. Now, listen, Joshua would be the person to give us a tactical breakdown of how to do that, Derek. If Rio Hatate's on that kind of form, it's very difficult to stop him. But for me, Chermiti has to play because of his performances against Celtic. But at the same time, we know that he struggles when he's playing up top on his own. He seems to thrive with a partner. So I'm probably erring towards some sort of 3 at the back system for this game, Derek, to allow you to have 2 at front. I wouldn't go with a 4-2-2-2 because I thought it was exposed when Hatate came in and was able to just quickly switch it through the press. Unless you have a real sense of how you're going to stop Hatate and McGregor, I don't think they can necessarily do that. It would be very brave if he went for the same formation again, and maybe he can have tweaks that can help sort that out. But these big questions for Danny Rohl, and because of the way that game ended, Derek, I think he's going to be under pressure to get it right, just as he was against Hearts, because, you know, he hasn't won that many of the big games, and Rangers have had a period now over 4, 5, 6 games where they haven't been very good, with the exception of the Hearts game and that first half, obviously. So I would like to think that while Danny Rohl will get time, I'm also a realist and I have to be honest and talk the truth. And the facts are that the sort of rumblings of discontent will grow to howls if this doesn't go well. And while we all have our opinions about how fair that is, and I don't think it is fair, it is just the reality of this club. And there's no point in howling at the moon about it because it's just not going to change. So, yeah, it's a big one for Danny Rohl, no doubt about it.
It is. He's been speaking about last week's game, folks. Reflecting on the game, he said, you think about what I could change to help the group. The biggest challenge is that you felt after 50 minutes, everyone in the stadium thought we would win. Everyone knows games can change quickly. It was similar to our away game against Celtic. We missed 5 minutes to win the game 2-1. This is what we have to improve. And we spoke about this week, how we manage situations and the game management. He says, I take responsibility for the first half and the second half performance. So that is what he had to say on that front. Yeah, like you, Martin Neal, I imagine will shape up similar to how Celtic started the second half at Ibrox. No chance he's going to go with it the same starting 11 that started the game. So it's up to Rangers to try something different. For me, I know there's some comments coming in, some for a back 3, some against it. I'd be inclined to go with a back 3 because, like you said, it does allow you to play with a 2 up top, maybe 5 across the middle. Now, there's changes to be made in defence for me. I get why some are saying, you can't foresee Danny Rohl making changes in there. He's got to bring Nasser Jiga in for John Souttar, in my opinion. He's just been off the boil for quite some time that Nasser Jiga, I think, deserves to reclaim that spot. And I would have, I wouldn't have any issue with it, a back 3 of him. Perhaps Dujon Sterling in there and Emmanuel Fernandez. Your thoughts on that, Johnny?
Well, first of all, I'm getting a bit of a pounder in the comments. I don't really understand why, because I think they've missed the nuance of what I was trying to say. I don't think Danny Rohl should be sacked, Derek. I did say I didn't think that would be fair. I'm saying the reality of the situation is, if you get back into this title race and then fall out of it again and then you lose in the cup to Celtic, I think you're going to be under serious pressure. I absolutely don't think Rangers can keep sacking managers. I don't think it's the right attitude. And I think Danny Rohl will get, obviously, a pre-season, the ability to add more players and the chance to build a squad in his own image, because this one is not even half constructed. I'm just saying that the reality of this club is you're under pressure if you fail to win Old Firm games, especially the ones at home that are key in the title race. That's That is absolutely basic stuff, and I'm absolutely shocked to have people being abusive in the comments. And by the way, if you are being abusive, you will be banned.
Listen, that was one of the comments put to me and Chris yesterday about pressure. Will he be under pressure, Danny Rohl, if Rangers end the season trophyless? And he will. Any manager will be under pressure if that's the case. Any Rangers manager will be under pressure, even if he wins trophies. That is the nature of the beast at Rangers. You're always under pressure, of course, to win silverware. So that's part of the job. But certainly Sunday will help matters, because there has been a bit of discontent, it's fair to say, from some quarters. Certainly with regards to last week, he did make mistakes for me, the manager, and it would be a real good big result if he can get the better of Martinelli and get Rangers past Celtic, and then have the prospect of silverware come the end of the season if the league goes a tad awry, which it certainly looks likely at this point, given the current form in the league. 4 draws in the last 6, not good enough.
Derek, after that bit of clarity, let's get back to your initial point, which I thought was a really interesting one about John Souttar. I've been a big defender of John Souttar, and when he arrived at this club, I thought it was a really good signing. You get him on a free from Hearts. Nobody at that point thought of John Souttar as Rangers captain and leader at centre half. That would have been ridiculed. Privately, we were around at that time, Rangers Review. We were talking to people at the club, and John Souttar was seen as a really good squad player that would bring a Scottish element to the dressing room, that would give depth, that would be able to be brought in for certain games because he's pretty good going forward. He's got a good pass in him. But the problem with John Souttar's game has always been the same. It's the one that he still has now. He's got a mistake in him, and he's got a mistake in him when he's playing well at crucial moments. And I actually think in the Old Firm game, he had a good game, apart from the absolute brain fart where he's ball watching for that second goal. Well, the moment that leads to the penalty. For me, though, the issue is not really John Souttar, and I want to clarify that. John Souttar, to me, is a third or fourth choice Rangers centre half. He shouldn't be playing 55 games a season or 60 games a season as the main man, as the organiser. I don't think he's that guy.
He's not the captain either.
If you had a Davy Weir today, not 55-year-old Davy Weir, by the way, but Davy Weir as a 36-year-old, and put him next to John Souttar, I don't think John Souttar would get much stick. I think if you had someone next to him that was able to lead him, he would be fine. But Rangers have missed that Connor Goldson figure since Goldson left. They've not replaced Connor Goldson. I think that's the bigger issue for me. Souttar absolutely makes mistakes, and it's a difficult position to be defending him right now, because it's been, since he came back from his injury, his form has not been good. He has made mistake after mistake. And you have to hold your hands up to that as a Souttar defender, but at the same time say, he's been asked to perform a position in the squad. I don't think he's capable of performing. And I don't mean that to criticise John or to do him down. I just think that the standards expected of Rangers' main centre half, and it comes down to these expectations again, is that they'll deliver a level of competency week in, week out. And it comes back to that thing, you're only as good as your last pass. And John sometimes has those moments when he switches off. And you look at that cross from James Forrest that comes in, finds Maida. I don't blame Dujon Sterling for a moment for throwing himself at the ball. But what I do look at is I look at John Souttar and his movement there, and how a simple just change of body shape, a little kind of switch of movement by Maida is enough to fool him and send John Souttar to the front post. And it gives Maida that space to nip in between him and Sterling and get that header. So that, to me, for an experienced centre-half who's supposed to be Rangers leader, that's a really big mistake. And John Souttar will know that himself. But for him to be in that position, I think we have to have a look at the bigger picture of why is John Souttar in that slot? I just don't think he is that guy. And I'd be really interested to hear your opinion on it, Derek.
I'm
John Souttar as much as he's making mistakes.
I'm really thinking about I would drop him for Sunday. He certainly shouldn't be wearing the armband either. I don't want to go two-footed on him, but he's not playing well enough at this point in time. So I'm bringing in Nasser Giga back in. Now, I know he's not said it many times before. He's not the Fabio Cannavaro, but for me, he was doing reasonably well with Emmanuel Fernandez before John Souttar returned to the team, and would probably make it solidify it a bit more. I don't think Martin O'Neill would be expecting a back three, perhaps. And then I would, another controversial point, I would then consider bringing back James Tavernier on that right-hand side.
Right centre half.
Well, or right wing back. Well, right.
Okay. Or Sterling, you put Sterling at right centre back, yeah.
Yeah. And that would mean Andreas Skov Olsen coming out of the team. Another one who, let's be honest, isn't setting the heather alight now. Peter Lovenkrands was speaking to Chris at Hampden yesterday ahead of the game. Made some interesting points, did Peter. He loved a game against Celtic, loved a goal against Celtic back in the day. He says, it doesn't help anyone coming here from Denmark who plays as a winger. It was the same for me where the first time I signed and they were saying, oh, he's a new Laudrup. I'm like, oh my God, please don't. It's the worst thing you can do because for us in Denmark, Brian and his brother are the highest you can go in football. It's so hard to put that label on your shoulders, and even more so when you come here to Rangers because there's already so much expectations. The club is so big. And of course, Laudrup is as much an icon and a legend here as he is in Denmark. So trust me, it doesn't help. I remember in the beginning, I kept saying, please don't make that comparison. I'm my own person. I wanted to be as good as him, but it will take me time. I was only 20 years old when I signed. When Brian came here, he was on his prime. I wanted to be as good as he was, but it's not guaranteed. Now, on Skov Olsen, he says, again, it's early days, but I know it's a loan deal probably, and it's a short period of time, so you have to hit the ground running. He's trying to find his feet. He's got a good assist and a goal and stuff like that, but he's got a lot of pressure on him. I can only protect him a little bit because it was like that for myself. It took me a year to get my body ready. First of all, I had a lot of injuries in my first year. It wasn't until my second year I scored 7 goals and 5 against them. But it takes time sometimes for a player. He doesn't really have the time, so that's a bit harsh to judge him on. You need to go in and be amazing. He needs to figure out how the league is, and it takes games. It takes time. So there you go. Wise words there from Peter Lovenkrands. Jonny, you've got to say, I've said this as well, it is going to take him time. I think if Rangers pay the money to Wolfsburg in the summer, I imagine it won't be until next season we see the best of this lad, but perhaps expecting a little bit too much from him. Now, it seems harsh given that he set up one of the greatest goals I think I have ever seen in this fixture last weekend. But that is a consideration for me, taking him out from the starting 11. What are you doing with Andreas Skov Olsen?
Well, first of all, I think the criticism has been understandable, but I think there's elements to where he's been over the last wee while that shows you that it was going to take a little bit of time. He's hardly played this season. That's the thing, you know, in the Bundesliga, he was very, very rarely used by his previous team. It was, you know, he started the season, I think, one of the first choice players, had an injury, and then after that injury, I think he had a knee issue. He was 45 minutes here, 22 minutes there, and then on the bench, not in the squad, hardly used. You're going back to the 23rd of August for him to get the 13th of September for him to have played nearly 90 minutes. He played 89 minutes in that game. But other than that, it's snatched moments really. So this is a guy that's going to need a little bit of time to get back up to speed. He clearly is a quality player. He clearly has the ability to put in a cross. You saw that. We've seen it a few times now, to be fair. But he's not having that kind of decisive impact I think people would have wanted at this point. One of the things about Skov Olsen, anyone that watched YouTube videos or whatever, you'd have seen time and time again, he has this ability to cut inside from the right and unleash a left-footed shot into the top corner. It's like kind of his trademark. And we've not seen that. So I get why these criticism. I understand it. I think he'll admit that it's deserved, but perhaps there's a story there behind it. And that, you know, maybe towards the end of this month, we can start saying, right, he's had the opportunity to build his fitness, to get his muscularity to where it needs to be for the Scottish game, and we need to see something from him now. There's always the problem with signing players in January. getting players that are game ready, it's always going to be a challenge.
Yeah, especially if you've not played, like you said, for quite some time. Different, of course, Two Romans was injured when he arrived, but he has hit the ground running and then some. Chukwueze has also been good for me as well. That is a decision as well for Danny Rohl. If he's playing, if he goes with my team, he won't. But midfield, Raskin, his passing was a tad wayward. Not the only one in that second half, but he's another one that's been off the boil. Jonny, as a decision to be made there as to who Danny Rohl starts. Now, Mohamed Diamande came off the bench. I thought he would, because he generally tends to do well against Celtic, but he himself wasn't really at the races when he came on. But I like the idea of a Diamande Chukwueze midfield duo. Is that a route you would go down, or are you keeping Raskin in that 11?
I totally understand why you're saying that, Derek. I think I'm keeping Raskin in, just like for the same reason I'm keeping Suter in, because one of the things that I felt Rangers were badly lacking against Celtic in that second half was a bit of grey hair, a bit of experience. And you're talking about taking out, the established leaders. Now, they might not be very good leaders, but if you take them out, then you're asking young boys to step up, or guys that are just in the door. And to me, I think that's quite a difficult ask in a game like this, where there needs to be a little bit of puffing your chest out and kind of stepping up to the plate. And Raskin's done that in Old Firm games at times, certainly at Parkhead, with that great individual bit of skill to get to the byline and cut it back for Chermiti's excellent finish in the 3-1 game. So look, he's not playing well, and again, it's like Suter. I'm sitting here defending a guy who I don't think is playing well, and who is, when I watch him, is frustrating me, especially with his distribution.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not. I think that's a big gamble to drop Raskin and put Diamande in alongside Chukwueze. I think he if he's playing the 2-2-2, I think he'll play the same lineup that he started with at Ibrox.
Okay, well, let's hope that they can get 3 goals in front at half-time, because at this point in time, Jonny, Rangers are having to score 3 goals to be in with a chance of winning a game. They've conceded twice in the last 3 matches, which is no good. You're not going to win anything if that carries on in any way, shape or form. Other than that, I think, Nadiri, Chermiti, is there a slight concern? I mean, when Nadiri came off the other day there, we've said it before, Chermiti doesn't work as a lone striker. Miovski, it's clear, it doesn't really, we never trusted him to come on last weekend. What do you do there? Because at some point in the game, the 2 of them are going to be blowing a gasket, you'd imagine.
Yeah. Listen, I think there's a larger point about the overall fitness, and listen, you saw that against Celtic, didn't you? I think there's an issue around, you set up to play a certain type of football in pre-season, don't you? And your pre-season is based on that type of football. And Russell Martin's game plan is about rest on the ball, dominating possession, playing at round teams. You don't need the same level of fitness that you need to play a high pressing, on top of them in their own half, suffocating gegenpress. That is a different level of fitness. And I'm just wondering if those 2 things, the Rangers pre-season for resting on the ball, dominant possession, Russell Martin, against what Danny Rohl's asking these players to do right now, I wonder if that's just a little bit at odds, and that's part of the reason that a game like a second half like what we saw last week happens. I don't know that, Derek. It's a speculative point, but it's certainly they'll look to be an issue there. They look like completely out on their feet, and that's something that I think is very difficult to fix at this stage of the season when it's game after game after game. Now, to be fair, they've had a full week. Celtic have played. Rangers have been able to probably look at things tactically and spend a bit of time. But I think Danny Rohl getting that pre-season and will be important.
Yeah, well, they played last week as well. Of course, they went to Stuttgart, Celtic, so no excuse if fitness is an issue on Sunday as well. Incidentally, folks, we've got a clip of Danny Rohl from his press conference, so we'll play it now. This is just what he had to say ahead of the game.
My own pressure is always high because I want to be successful. I want to win something. I want to bring the club forward. I want to win titles. We have still 2 good options, 2 good opportunities to do something. It's a game where in 90 minutes, 120 minutes, everything is on for both teams. Let's see, we will try. We are focused. We know that we can do it because we showed us 50 minutes how we can play. And with this positive mindset, we go in this game. Pressure on football, I think it's normal. Every manager has pressure. It doesn't matter where you are. We know our club is special, but it's also a big honor to be manager of such a fantastic club.
There you go. That is a snippet of Danny Rohl ahead of the game this coming Sunday. I think, the crowd will be huge as well. I mean, you've seen last weekend, that first half, I had serious FOMO watching that unfold. Now, we know the dynamics will be slightly different because Celtic will have more fans in the stadium, Jonny, 7,500 in the Broom Loan. It'll be like the olden days. I can't remember when we last seen that, of course, many moons ago. But the fans are going to, well, I don't think I need to tell them that they will play their part. Of course, it will be the 12th man on Sunday, but it will be interesting to see the dynamic with Celtic having the stand behind the goal. That would certainly make things a tad interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's obviously an advantage for Celtic to have more Celtic fans in there, and especially an advantage to have a full stand like that, which is so impactful. Again, to reiterate what I've already said about this whole situation, it's incomparable what Rangers get at Parkhead to what Celtic get at Ibrox. You know, up in a corner, miles away from the pitch, several kind of large steel shafts in front of you, so you can't see. Out of sight, out of mind in terms of the players, and then having that huge impactful area behind the goal where every time in the second half or the first half, depending on which way you're shooting, you're firing into that end. It's you know, I think Celtic have won a watch absolutely with that, getting that back for the Scottish Cup. And you know, I think if Rangers don't get the result that they need, I think that'll be something that people will be getting reminded about in terms of the club's hierarchy for a while. But you know, we understand that there's circumstances behind it in terms of the SFA and the rules for the Scottish FA Cup. So in terms of just how challenging this game's going to be, Derek, and where and how Rangers can win, I think the fans are going to be so important in this one. I thought Ibrox, I mean, I wasn't at the game, so I'm listening on the telly, and I've spoken to people who were there about what it was like on the day, and they were saying that the first half was like, you know, as good as it's been in a domestic game for a long time.
Yep.
And I think, you know, the fans played their part, the players played their part, and that was Ibrox at its best. I think it's going to need to be like that again. I think there's been a bit of deflation. You can see it in the comments today. There's a bit of irritation, a bit of anger. We're probably a bit angry and irritated as well. You know, it's what happens after a kind of disappointing result like that. And the Rangers play so well in the first half and then so poorly in the second, it was very deflating. It felt like a defeat, didn't it? And you can tell that by social media, and you can see it in our comments. So I think the fans need to do the same as what they did in that first half once again. And if Ibrox is behind the team, it makes a hell of a difference, especially with all these young lads that are in there. You know, I talked about the grey hair thing. They aren't full of experienced guys who can take the criticism, who can take the pain and make it a constructive part of their kind of working week. I don't think the Rangers have those hardened professionals around the place. So to have that 12th man, I think it's going to be absolutely crucial, Derek.
Yeah. There's a couple of points before I wanted to bring up before we wrap up for today. Laura gets in touch. She says, I reckon I'll go to extra time. A red card, couple of yellows, and a dodgy VAR review. And Neil with the point says, Rohl needs to be putting pressure on refs in his interviews. I've seen McCoist yesterday on his TalkSport show having a pop at the VAR in the Aberdeen Celtic game. Of course, the goal from Benjamin Nygren that was given turned out to be the match winner. McCoy said, has anything changed after Celtic's half-yard offside goal winner? You need to go look at it. Was Marty Feldman on VAR? He's one for the younger ones. Look up Marty Feldman. Whoever was in VAR needs to get their eyeballs checked. Now, I know you, Johnny, are not a fan of the VAR in Scotland and the lines that are drawn, the dynamics and all that. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if there's contentious decisions again this coming Sunday. I think it's an absolute nonsense, the technology right now. It's clear that it's not been implemented properly. I don't like it anyway. But yeah, expect the unexpected, I guess.
Derek, can you remind me of a VAR controversy over the last few years in the Europa League with Rangers or the Champions League? A major VAR controversy.
The Dortmund game, and
Morelos that should have been a goal. But
apart
from that,
Diamandi red recently. I think 2 yellows. I think was a bit of a joke. But that aside, yeah.
I don't think that it's the. I was hoping that you wouldn't have many, but you've got a list of them. I don't think the technology in Europe is bad at all. I think in the European games, VAR is much less intrusive. I feel like it's quicker. There's more cameras, obviously. And I think that it's clearer what's going on. In Scotland, I called it on Twitter, Poundland VAR. Yeah. 6 cameras. I think I read today that in the Europa League, it's 8 to 12, depending on the place where the game is held. Sometimes more than that. So I think ultimately what we're seeing time and time again is sort of vaguely inconclusive pictures that are causing controversies.
Yep.
And I just think if you don't have the ability to showcase why something is factually wrong, I'm not talking about this last incident. I don't want to get into that. I'm just talking about generally. If you have images that have got motion blur and you don't know where the foot ends and the foot starts and foot ends because there's a blur on the image because it's not sharp enough, then part of me does think, is this worth it? Is it worth it? And, I was a big proponent of VAR. I thought it was the right thing to do. I felt that Scottish football is a traditional atmosphere of not wanting change and being very stuffy about change. And I would apply that to the Scottish nation as a whole. Doesn't deal with change well. Scottish football probably as a microcosm many times more change resistant than even Scotland as a nation. And I just felt, look, you bring back VAR in and we'll see how it works. We're over 3 years in now, Derek. I have to be honest, I just don't think it's working. I don't think it's getting better.
No.
And I think it's causing as much controversy as there was before. And what we've lost in terms of the excitement of a goal going in and not knowing if it's a goal or not. I don't know about you, mate. When I'm watching a Scottish football game now, I know it's different for you because you're watching games in League One and the Championship.
It's so refreshing.
You can't sort of celebrate because you're going, well, is it a goal? Is there going to be a wee foul in the build-up that we're not aware of? I think even balance, my feeling is it needs to go.
Even things like Chermiti's double last week, I was going, that's amazing. But then immediately you think, are they going to look at something here? And that it really just they've sucked the life out of the game for me. Yeah. There are a few comments coming in. Haggis Killer says Jeffrey's red card. They couldn't check that for VAR because it was 2 yellows. One of the worst decisions I have ever seen in my time watching the game. That was an absolute disgrace, and I think ultimately cost Rangers that night against Dynamo Kiev at Hampden. And this was a real contentious one that should have been checked. Fraser says, remember Dessers' shirt getting ripped in the penalty box in Spain? And he ended up getting booked for protesting.
That was a bad one as well. There's actually been a few in Europe. You know what I mean, though, generally? You know what I mean, generally, lads?
Yes.
Lord, we're going to have about 50 of these now. I'm going to look like a right... I can't use that word, but yes.
Anyway, how's it going then, Jonny? Rangers winning on Sunday?
Do you know what? I don't feel confident about that prediction at all at this moment. I think it's going to go to extra time, Derek. I feel strongly about that. I think
Wouldn't be surprised.
It's going to be about fitness, and it's going to be about who wants it more at the end. You remember that amazing game under Giovanni van Bronckhorst at Hampden against Angie's Celtic, where Rangers became more powerful as the game went on, despite having the Europa Cup to contend with. And by extra time, they were just absolutely battering them. I think it's that kind of performance is needed.
Yes.
So, listen, I think it's going to be a draw 2-2. I would go for as the result, and then Rangers to go through in penalties. But there's a lot of factors that need to go into that to make it happen. And I have to say, I think the fans are as important as any player on the night. Really, really, really massively important that they stay and they get behind them from the minute go. And at the same time, it's really important that the Rangers players give the Rangers fans something to hang on to, because it's symbiotic.
Yeah, lots of calls for 3-1. I'll go along with that. I fancy Rangers to get the better of Celtic in this game. I think Danny Rohl's going to get his team selection spot on and his sub spot on. There you go. There's a prediction for you. Right, that will do us there. Big thank you to Jonny as ever. Thank you to you all for tuning in to the show. Before I forget, as you can see, if you're watching us on Facebook and YouTube, the little ticker below, there's still some seats left for the Rangers Review Live, which takes place at Edmonston House on Friday, the 10th of April. Click the link below this video, folks. That'll take you through to the page over on the website, and you can pick your seats. But you need to be quick. They're certainly getting snapped up. So if you want to head along to that, then make sure you get your tickets now and don't delay. The Danny Rohl press conference is now available on the YouTube channel, folks, so you can go and check it out in its entirety. Joshua and Blair will be back for their Saturday show tomorrow morning, so that'll keep you ticking over ahead of the game.
That's the more cerebral show, Derek. That's for the brains. We're the Muppets in the morning, and they bring on the brainiacs to talk tactics on the Saturday. Yeah,
I was actually I noticed Burniston is one of the funniest comedies I have seen ever. But the lad on that, I've seen him posting on his social media. I seen it last night, and he said, why is everyone talking about counter pressing and pressing, all that sort of nonsense? Just get it in the box. That's what you get when you get myself and Jonny on the show. Just get it in the box, get it in the mixer. That's what we want.
Two old dads.
Yes.
Wanting the 90s back.
Yes. Yeah. But cannot wait to. I'll be there at Ibrox. Hopefully, it's a good old trip up the road. But enjoy your Friday for now, folks. Enjoy your weekend. I hope your team wins, and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.